So today we're talking about discipline versus punishment. So I'm just waiting for Carla. Like I said, Carla is a psychologist, and we usually have lives every like 2-3 weeks where we just discuss random topics. Today we just decided to talk about discipline and punishment in parenting and how each affects like the parent or the child. And while she's coming in, I could just give a few pointers. If you have any questions regarding discipline versus punishment, feel free to ask either I or Carla. She should be here any moment from now. Okay, so Carla is here now, so I'm just gonna bring her in. Hi.
Interesting how to get on. Yeah, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Great.
Took a while, huh?
Yes, we're just trying to figure that out.
Yeah. Awesome. No, but in general, we didn't meet for a while.
Yes, it's been a while. It's been like 3-4 weeks, maybe. Yeah, like 3 weeks, maybe.
Yeah. Things are good?
Yes, doing great. Everything is going well. I mean, just getting ready to start school. And for you?
Yeah, and your hair is interesting.
Yeah, I think it's always been like this. I just tightened it a bit.
Yeah. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're just going to talk about discipline versus punishment. I mean, we are going to talk more on punishment, but it's also to like draw that line, because I know for most of my life, they felt like one and the same thing. Like if I said I was going to discipline my child, it would include punishment, right? And then it was along the line I realized that discipline meant to teach. And oftentimes every time, the only thing punishment would ever teach is either like my child is a bad person that just keeps doing the bad thing, right? And I'm punishing them for doing the bad thing, and I'm never really teaching them what to do. I'm telling them maybe why they're being punished, right? That was probably the concept and the mindset of punishment, is that, okay, I'll punish you, but I'll let you know why you're feeling so much pain is because you did this bad thing, right? It's never a thing of, oh, this is where you did wrong and this is how you can be better. Yeah. And that's kind of the distinction that I've come to see it as. So yeah. So what would you like to put in, at least also from a psychological standpoint, with punishment and discipline?
I'm not sure, because traditional psychology endorses very much what you just said there, the punishment style, right? It's like, do this and you get that, whether rewarded or punished, right? Mm-hmm. And I was thinking today, just before this meeting, I have heard so many kids saying in America, I don't do this, so and so, such and such, because I don't want to get into trouble. That means you don't do something because you don't want to get a negative consequence, but there is nothing there instilled like a value that you really want to happen. For instance, compared with everybody is educated in the same way, and so we have the fines and citations if you drive too fast, right? And if you drive several times too fast, you have several citations, you might lose your driver's license, right? Now, the punishment is there because there is a greater thought about safety. It is created for that people will be in a safer situation. But what about the moral education that do not drive too fast because you don't want to endanger anybody's life? That is the personal responsibility. And when you just simply punish, you don't create any personal responsibility only. And that is one way to look at it. And I don't like that part. And the other part is that the one that is the strongest gives the punishment, and they are angry and upset because their needs are not met. Maybe their needs for respect at that moment, or needs for order, needs for having a peaceful home, whatever it is. So kids have needs as well. So it is conflicting needs that creates the conflict. And then the one that has the most power, like a parent or a teacher or any other adult for that matter, they can decide, I punish you because my needs are not met. Now, if you see, this message is so big because you miss a moment for education that you will learn why you don't do certain things, even though you like to do them. And you haven't seen the consequences because you're a child and your brain is not yet developed in that way. And the other terrible thing of the consequences of being punished for everything that an adult doesn't like is when you're in an intimate relationship later on, you have not learned peaceful conflict resolution or constructive conflict resolution. So if you would do the same thing, you punish then your husband or your wife when your needs are not met, with giving the cold shoulder. You won't say, okay, give me your car keys, give me your favorite clothes, give me your this, or you're not going tonight to the movies because you didn't fulfill my needs. We don't do
Right.
that as adults because they think
Right.
that's rather strange.
Mm-hmm.
But how we solve it then, the issues that is very hard. That's why people often get emotional in discussions, or you get a terrible fight.
Right.
And because the needs come up from my needs are not met, and they even often don't know which kind of needs. It could be the need for belonging, the need for being heard. It could be so much. And then you get the emotional responses that your partner maybe doesn't understand or does understand. And you get that fighting, the attack and the defense technique, right? I call it technique in a way. It's a habit. But you know, and you can often say things that come out too harsh and too terrible because all the triggers that fire off, right? From all the experiences in your life that you haven't been heard, for instance. And then you take something away from the relationship because you can never take your words back. You can never
Yeah,
take back the nasty things, and your partner is
that's
not a
right.
therapist that can understand that. So I think the
Process
tragic
it.
thing is that so many kids, maybe all kids in the world, are raised like this, more or less. Some not, but most of the time it is, because the school system totally functions like that, right? And another thing that always pops up too for me, if we talk about this topic, is if a parent, most of the parents want the best for their kids, for sure. They want them to be successful, happy,
Right.
and all that. How you
Mm-hmm.
get there is another question. Now, what I've seen many times here in Boca Raton, in Florida, where my kids grew part of their childhood after we came from Europe, I saw that the neighbor kids were grounded when they didn't come home with an A. And then I'm like, how is that connected? That
Yeah.
you find something not so easy, or you maybe didn't learn, or maybe you went to sleep too late. Why would you be deprived from friendships and from love in a way because you're sent to your room because you come home with an A? How is that connected? Not
That's
at
right.
all, right?
Right.
But it was practiced all the time, and a lot of therapists gave it as an advice. Punish them, to ground them, take their favorite stuff away. Don't let them go to a party because they learn. It's like almost like stupid. No, I shouldn't say the word stupid. It's like the rats or the mice in the training box, right? And it's like, do this, you get that, and it has
Right.
nothing to do with intrinsic respect and values. And today there's so much is spoken about and so much is said about like being inclusive. Of course, if you're raised with respect, if you're treated with respect as a child, you will become a respectful adult,
That's
and
right.
you will see the good in others all the time. You don't even need it. But it's like the world upside down. You need to start with children, and you need to
Yes.
start teach compassion in schools, and not you're a loser, you're a winner, and not
Yes.
comparing kids and not dividing them and having favorites. It's actually so simple if you think about it.
Right.
And so this is my introduction for today.
Yes, yes. And I think I really love that. I feel like the struggle sometimes is also like punishment tends to put people in a box of good
Yeah,
and bad.
you
Yes.
feel
So
shitty because you are a
yeah,
bad
so
person. Yeah.
that's right. And so the problem is that when you always feel that those are the only two boxes that exist, which is good and bad, for the rest of your life, you put people in those boxes. You
Uh,
never, you're never
exactly.
able
It
to
is
understand.
teaching.
That's right. To
Yeah, this
understand
is so right. Sorry, I interject you. It's so true what you say. It is teaching division. It's not teaching inclusion. So it's like so upside down. It is respecting who we are and do your best, right? Try to be your best you. That's
Mhm.
great to teach kids. Do your very
Right.
best. But
Mhm.
not if they do their very best and they don't get that A, to punish them because it's your own ego. The neighbor kids have an A, while your kid doesn't have an A, and you give your
That's
kid a
right.
bad feeling. If you think about how kids are raised for eons, and it has been worse in the past because we have to speak about I really have clients today that were really beat up harshly by their father if their report card wasn't great. And that is
Mm.
sometimes from cultures that have been suffering a lot themselves. And it's like they have not ever thought you can raise your kids in a different way. And why is that? Because it's the fear. You're just afraid your kid won't grow straight and right, and in the right way, I mean to say. And then let's do this because that's what we learned. I raised my kids totally different than how I am raised, because what I saw, and I was not raised in a terrible way, but what I saw was a lot of criticism and a lot of judgment, and I was like, I don't want that, because didn't feel good, I have been bullied a lot, and I was also the leader of the bullied kids, so I stood up for the other ones that were bullied, so I did something there. But that is something that can be handled in school when you teach really respect for everybody. And if you
That's
have
right.
a lower grade or a lesser grade, you can still be a great person. And I think it goes totally wrong there. Yeah.
Yeah. So even with the thing of grading, like, I mean, I will still talk about the thing of good and bad, but even with the thing of grading, is that one thing is that the child now starts to focus on the grade. And what I
Yeah.
find was very common where I was raised, at least, is that most people would cheat in exams, like, because we had to give them that grade, and we all forgot what it was like to actually love a subject, right? It was very commonplace practice, like for the exam from the how would I grade 6 to junior high. There's something called WAEC, and I know that the people would have the answers to the exam before the exam, and everyone is trying to share it. Everyone is trying to get 6, 7 A's, 8 A's, and so yeah, the parents have bragging rights. And it's like we totally lose focus on the point of education, right?
Yeah.
Because now it's like, okay, the child is getting punished for not getting an A, but like you said, what are they struggling with? I remember a friend of mine who was talking to me, and he said he was grateful that his dad moved him from a certain school to another school that was a bit harsher, but he was really dumb. That's what he said. And I had to call him and tell him, like, you weren't dumb. Like, there was a switch. And then he mentioned that he got a math teacher before he started at that other school. And then he felt very confident in math because he really knew math, and the teacher was really good. And like, there it is. You weren't able to figure out math, and this kind of thing where you don't understand something, so you give up. So that's what you had. You weren't dumb, you just didn't get it, and then you just gave up on the subject.
Exactly.
So all that needed to happen was for someone to ask you what you were struggling with and help you from there. And so there's really no dumb or smart kid, good or bad kid. There's always somebody struggling with something.
Yeah.
Like, if we can really see, and that's the thing of, I'm saying, putting boxes of good and bad, like two extreme opposites. People can't believe that two things can exist at once, first of all, and secondly, like, it's okay to struggle, it's okay to try and figure things out, it's okay to fail, it's okay to make mistakes. So that is where the thing of, even in relationships, where we're constantly in that place of trying to fit people in good and bad, is like, your spouse is bad when they do X and good when they do X, and then that is where you still start feeling like, I need to treat my spouse bad enough. It might not be like as bad as you would do a child, but sometimes you treat them bad enough in the hope that they learn from feeling bad, as opposed actually working with your spouse, communicating,
Yeah.
actual communication. There's always that thing of, you want them to read your mind and then just be better. Like, and it's like, and that is the problem with that box. Like, this is where it now goes into relationship, which is sometimes why I do all my posts, where it's like how it would affect the child and how it affects the child when they get into relationships. Because most times it plays out, even though now it also means the child will start doing it to their own child, right? But the thing is that it also plays out in relationship. And one thing gets to me when I see someone say, I don't know, it's a trigger for me. Someone say, don't talk to me like a child, or when I'm addressing you, I won't address you like a child. I'm just like, why do children need to be spoken to that way? They also deserve respect. Why
Yeah.
are we so used to the fact that we can treat kids like crap? I don't know. And I know
Yeah.
I used to be guilty of saying that in the past, where, oh, don't talk to me like a child. And yeah, if you behave like a child, I'll talk to you like a child. But I'm just like, but why in my head did I ever feel it was okay, or there was ever a reason to be disrespectful to a child? Like, respect is mutual. I need my child I need my child to be able to know he deserves respect, as much as I deserve respect. And he should learn that people, and that is the recent post I did where the mom was yelling at the child, and then the child grew up to accept being yelled at. And I did that story because that is my story. I had a boss that was always yelling, and I always thought I deserved it. I always felt like, oh, if I behaved better, then he wouldn't have to yell. And that was so wrong. It was like, you can't yell at me. If you have a problem, you can talk to me, communicate with me. You can fire me, but you can't disrespect me. I deserve kindness. It took me a while to realize what I deserved, right? Because I kept thinking,
well,
yeah,
how old were you when
I
you
was
got
like
that
28.
insight?
I was old. I was 28. I was a full-grown woman, and I was taking disrespect. I thought there were instances where it was okay, I could be disrespected. And that is all from, even not just my parents, it was commonplace practice for a child to accept being treated badly, right? And I see some people that would leave some comments and say, oh, I know I did something bad, and it's okay for you to talk to me, like talk sense into me, in the sense like you can disrespect me. And I'm just like, we need to know that no matter what, there are no terms and conditions. We all deserve respect. And this is where punishment comes in. As much as we don't mean to, it is you taking away honor from somebody else, right? Like, everybody deserves to be honored. Everybody needs to be given grace. Everyone deserves to be understood. Everyone deserves to be thought that even though you're struggling to express what you're trying to express to me, you are inherently trying to do the right thing. Like, because there's not once in my childhood I was trying to harm or do something wrong to my parents. So why do we feel like there's anywhere in our children's hearts that they want to do wrong to us?
Yeah.
You know, so, and if they are trying to do right by you every time, what is the goal of punishment?
Yeah.
Because
it creates negativity, and you feel guilty, and you feel shamed, and you feel blamed. And these are traits, habits that people go for in therapy. And I was speaking last week somewhere, and I brought up what did I bring up? What did I want to say? Well, something like that, that for most of my clients, the breaking point comes for why things don't go right in their lives in the way they want it, at least, without looking right or wrong. How the way they want it, like in relationship, but in business as well. Love and money can be very connected in being successful, from what you carry from generations, because we carry so much pattern, so much in our patterns from generations, right? And that was about that. And then you realize that you do a lot of things automatically. And then the breaking point for many of my clients, I would say like 80-90%, is the insight, I'm not good enough. Somewhere they have heard too many times they were not good enough. And that is the conditional way kids are raised by parents in general and by teachers in general. And there are really disrespectful dramas taken care in schools, which are covered under following the rules, or are covered under that's the rules of the institution. There was in Florida, it's a very strange example, but I read it in a book, so it's published even. There was in Florida a 5-year-old girl, and she was difficult in the class. So there's something going on with her. It's not a bad kid, but something is going on. What is her problem? We don't know. So she was not behaving well, according to the teacher, and she sent her to the principal, and they got into a conversation, and the girl got wild. Maybe she was already wild, and she punched him in his stomach. Well, a 5-year-old that punishes an adult in his stomach, that means that kid probably herself has been punched in the stomach many times. So that was the tools from adults probably, or from kids, and it was allowed that happened because they were not supervised. She did that, and that is a great moment of learning. What did the guy do? The principal, he called the police, because that are school rules. And I'm like, to hide behind institutions that we make all the time when there's a problem in America, there's a new law created to avoid getting that problem happening again. Now, but to call the police for a 5-year-old girl, if you are an adult, because she has that emotional response, that is like a big alarm. And that's a principle, somebody that should know, right? Yeah. That's a big alarm that most likely 99% the chance is big that she's reasonably abused at home, if not worse. So there is really a lot going on. Is that what you do? Then you call the police to threaten her for, oh, if you do that, you're a bad kid, or you go to jail. And that is an extreme example, and that surely doesn't happen on every school.
I know.
But it shows how disconnected many adults can be from kids, and specifically from the kids that need that nice, they need the understanding. Because this is an interesting thing that helps so much, because everybody runs now and then in situations that are uncomfortable, that we don't like somebody, and that happens, and that's okay, because we see a lot, and that happens a lot. But if you realize everybody does everything they do to serve one or another need, even creating war is that you have a need for safety, a need for peace even, and you think that's the way to go. I need to get that enemy small, then I will have more peace. Whatever it is, I just make a general example. So don't fight me on that. Because people started to argue about the theme of the war. No, but it is the fact that we do everything because we serve one or another need, and kids too. So if you connect and understand the needs, did you draw on the wall because you thought you make a nice painting for me, or for, instead of screaming, how do you get it in your head to draw something on the wall? And lots of toddlers do that. They think they make a beautiful gift for you. Guess what? You don't like it. If you give a gift to your friend that you buy in the store, or you make it even yourself, and your friend is not happy and gets mad, you will never buy a gift ever again, right? So it is, so as adults, we need to step so much in the shoes of the kids. Where are they? What's their intention here? Did they do it because, I want to make something ugly? No, they did it they want to add something, and they think in their mind that it is a great gift. That we had them all painted a week ago is a different story.
I know. And
but it's like conflicting of needs, which is an intimate relationship. The reason why things can go so bad and end in divorce, because the needs are conflicting. So with nonviolent communication, you get much more insight in your needs. And I see that now today more integrated in more psychology books. Not often refer to nonviolent communication, because it's a whole way of thinking and a whole style. But if you are aware of your needs, without saying my need for this, you need to meet my needs, that's also not nice, because it's demanding, right? But if you know yourself, you know this, your need is to be in a calm environment. You don't feel happy in a very crowded thing or a very loud party. Now, you don't have to be against the party or against the people that do that. You can just say, this is how I like it, and it's very hard for me to be there, just to give an example. And then, okay, we learn to understand this person this, that person that, and it's fine. It's all okay. We come from the same place. So with the punishment, I have so many people that I met that only remember the punishment, but never what they did. Never what they did wrong.
True.
So you see, and even the goal.
And even if they remember what they did, they never learned how to do better. So they maybe learned how to, I had an explosive tantrum and my mom beat the daylight out of me. Did you learn that when you were upset, you can walk away and you can breathe? Did you ever think about that? No, because I know I never thought about it till I was thinking of how to teach my son. So it's like we expect kids to know these things. And the funny thing is that sometimes we don't even know it because we were not taught. And till we take a moment and stop and start problem solving, okay, like you're saying, stop making the child the problem, because there's no solution to making the child the problem. There's no solution to the child. The child is a person. If you keep making the child the problem, there would never be a solution. And that is punishment. Punishment is making the person the problem, right? As opposed trying to teach someone, which is the real meaning of discipline, which has been misconstrued severely. You understanding that you are going for the behavior, you're trying to understand the behavior and know why the behavior is happening, and figuring out how can I help this person be better. And that when you even start seeing it from there, you're not able to attack the person, child or adult, right?
That's so true.
You're not able to go into fight. It's if my husband is doing something, maybe he's yelling at me, and I know it's his inability to express his anger. I'm not triggered, and I am not unforgiving. Before, I would hold a grudge, but I would demand my respect in that moment and say, it's not okay to talk to me like this. If you need a moment, that's okay, right? That's fine, but you can't talk to me like this. We can take a moment and recruit, like come back and recoup and have this
But you know,
conversation.
if I may interject you here, because that's a very interesting sentence you say. If you say you cannot talk, it's almost a challenge. Yes, I can, because you can.
Okay,
But it
okay.
is if you say, I don't like if you talk
How
to me
I
like
don't feel
this. It
safe
makes me
when you speak
sad if
that
you
way.
talk like this, and I
That's
don't
right.
feel uncomfortable. Then you have immediately the cause and effect there.
Right.
You know, because if you say you cannot do that. Really, I
I
can. But
can.
if you
That's a
want to
good point.
fight, you do that.
Yes,
Yes, I
to
can,
keep
and I
going.
decide myself what I will say, and you don't tell me anything.
Right.
You hear it? That's what
Yes,
you
yes,
can.
yes.
Yeah, and
Okay.
it is very interesting how the language is of help
Yes.
to be aware. The same thing with should. In nonviolent communication, and I call it actually connecting communication, you have certain words that are considered violent, and should is one of them. Now, if somebody asks you, shall I buy this gift or that gift, and then you could say, well, maybe you should buy that one. That's nice. I'm not speaking about those things. But if you say, you should do this, you should do that, it immediately, really? You know, you get not the cooperation that you would like, because
Right.
it comes from a little bit like this. And it's so interesting how the automatic behavior is a result from what is said and how it is said. You know, if people
Right.
endlessly speak about their needs and blame their partner for not meeting them, that's annoying.
Yeah, that yes, that cannot even, like, because at the end of the day, I can only meet those needs, right? At the end of the day, if I do have needs, like, I can either communicate, if it's attention, that to you. I don't have to force it on you, like how you were saying, an I thing. Like, I mean, I feel like I needed some attention in this moment, and when I didn't get it, like, I didn't feel so, like how you're saying, of more of like an I thing, rather than you never meet the you never give me attention or something like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's easier to, because when you said that, like, because I remember where me and my husband had like a thing, like an argument thing, and it was because I've heard of using that I statement thing. Of course, I don't remember all the time, but
Yeah.
he said something like, he was trying to say, you are always, so he was trying to tell me, like, I am always trying to make a point, like I'm always trying to say, act
To
like,
be right.
oh,
Yeah.
be like I know better. I'm like, I can't come across that way. I agree. So he said, like, you, but I told him, like, I now had to tell him, like, you have to say, like, I didn't even know what I was saying, but I was just like, you're saying you. Can you say I? Can you let me know what exactly I'm doing to you? I didn't even know what I was doing till he said, I feel shut down every time you do that. I was like, whoa, okay. I had no idea I was doing that. Like, and I
Yeah.
could see the difference between
Yeah.
hearing him say I and him
Yeah.
saying you. Because when you were saying
That's
you
so.
are always trying to feel smart, I was getting triggered, like, yeah, I'm smart. So,
Yeah, and what that shows, what everybody does.
yeah.
We all want validation and appreciation. And
Yeah.
if you, for instance, have not been seen as a kid a lot, and your siblings were more whatever liked, or in school whatever, there is always that pain point too for not being seen. So it is even more that you are more sensitive about it and saying things in a way that can backfire or get you even further away. And have to is also considered a violent word. So if you say you have to, I have to, you know, it does
Do
not
I
ask
really
for
have to? Do I
cooperation.
really?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
sorry. But you bring
I
these
get
words
that.
in, which is great because they are used all the time. So have to, if somebody says you have to do that, and really, do I have to? If you come from a place of freedom, you would like to make your own decisions, right? So if you incorporate the other's presence there, if you just ask friendly a request, I would be happy if you would do that, or I would be glad if you let me talk, and then that you hear me out, please, and then you know, and then you come with that request, which is never a demand. And yeah, you said that you and I, that's great. But so they have to, if you want kids to do something, you know, same thing.
I would
They have to,
appreciate
and the
if.
should is like they respond very strong to that. And same thing you said to the ever or never or always, right? You're always late. And really, always? You know, that comes from NLP. right away you say, always? No, not always, most of the time. Oh, okay. You know, and then you feel attacked. So, or you go to explain why you're late, you feel uncomfortable. And you can see it with friendships. That's so interesting. They have done a test in America, and it's shown, that has been shown that 100% of the participants were more polite to strangers and neighbors than to their own spouses and children. 100%.
Oh,
So how is that? You don't want your neighbors to think bad about you. You want
right.
to be kind to strangers because you're trained to be kind, and Americans are in general very polite and kind, right? Because
Mhm.
it's a, but the intrinsic respect is a totally different story.
Mm.
I can't wait to have my book out of that, because I'm ready
Oh,
with that,
nice,
because
nice.
it's so long. It's, yeah, it's an endless thing. But that idea, because you know your family belongs to you, and specifically your kids, you know, nobody is punishing you if you do not nice to them. And if you have
Mm.
enough self-reflection and self-insight, you will, or not, or avoid it, or you, if you are really mature, you apologize to your children when you let it out one time too far, right? Because we are all human, so that can happen. But
Yeah,
we make mistakes, but
yeah,
acknowledge them and tell them this is not the way.
yeah.
Because what you brought up before, and a few minutes before, is the yelling. So if you yell at your kids and you allow yourself to do that, and you don't allow your kids to yell back at you, and you get mad because you say it is disrespectful, well, you taught them to yell, because kids learn by example very
True.
much, especially the first years. It's all
Yeah,
the example. You know, the little sibling is always following the bigger sibling. They're like, they
that's
want to be
right.
like them. It's so innate. It's so
Yes.
like innate. So
Yeah.
if you allow yourself to yell, then you can never, you lose the right to be angry if your kids yell at you. You get
That's
it
right.
just back how you taught them. So many times that happens, because now it's forbidden to hit your kids, so now we start to yell
Mm-hmm.
because we don't have another to.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
right.
it's still not, you know, I would love, before people get children, that they really, and today more and more people do that. I mean, it's great. The
Yeah,
last 10 years, there are more nicer parenting books, like Gentle Parenting,
that's
Conscious
right.
Parenting. I had
Yeah.
my workshop, Happy Children, Happy Home, and I love to teach all these kinds of things too, and some metaphysical stuff about it. It's just great that parents that are willing to create happiness in their kids, you know, and successful. Because I think if you have been lived with respect and raised with respect, you and you have been heard, and you have gotten two parents that cared about you, that's really almost a privilege, you know,
It is.
because
Yes, it is.
and that is a great situation, because your family is your safety net, you
Yes.
know. And poor, yeah, and miserable, I would say, for the kids that lack that safety net and the warmth and kindness.
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
this was my talk.
Yeah, yeah, I know, I know, I know. I absolutely agree with everything that you're saying. And yeah, I think it's just, I mean, slowly, I think things are shifting where people are able to assess, because I feel like a lot of it makes it easier when you assess yourself to see how these things honestly affected you, and it's playing out in how with your relationships in general and with your child. And then when you're seeing how these things affected you, you can make a decision to try and do better. Because with I was doing with a mom, she started this yelling challenge, and when she put a call out for a no yelling no spanking challenge, she had like 1,000 people up for it. And it made me realize something, how many people actually want to do different. I just get like, and I'm grateful that we have the internet and we have all these things,
Yeah.
because without the information or what else to do, just the same thing with like when you're trying to help it your child be better, if your child doesn't know what to do, they will keep falling back to the thing they were doing before. And it's the same thing, like I can get parents struggling because they don't know what else to do. And it's really hard sometimes to see what else to do. Like I understand where it is, like, because it's a 360, not like a 180 shift, like you're going right around, like, yeah. So it's a lot, but it's a decision that can be made. And it's like, I think it makes it easier when people see other people doing it and like being able to move forward, like being able to handle the situation. But yeah, so I think
That
that's
is
just
why
really,
your
yeah.
channel is so successful, because you're doing that with so many videos. But
Yeah.
you know, it is a thing you need to be trained in. Maybe we can do, I was thinking maybe we can do a workshop together and use a lot of examples that parents run
That would be
into.
nice.
And then we do like a 3-hour workshop.
Okay.
And yeah, and then just put loaded with examples, and then giving alternatives, and based on the things we speak about, and certainly the nonviolent communication as well, because that is really a way of connecting. Because if you think about that, we want connection. We want to be
Right.
connected to our children. We don't get
Right.
children with all what it comes to be disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And that I hear sometimes. I do some grief work with some elderly people, and then sometimes I hear like, yeah, I have one rotten son, and then I feel right away, oh, terrible, because I only feel the pain when I hear such a thing.
Mm.
And for the mother, for the son, because you don't now, most of the time you're not born a rotten person, so to say. And there's so much tragedy around that.
Mm.
And that comes in many ways, but it's like we get our children out of love, ideally, and I think it should be like
Yeah.
that. And you want to create a happy family. That's why I have my workshops, happy children, happy home, and later happy
Mm.
parents, happy
Mm.
home. But it's
Mm.
true, if everybody around you is happy, and that is not happy, that sounds a bit too superficial. I don't mean it that way,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to be yourself, right? And what is yourself? And I remember that one of my sons who had ADHD in a severe way, we went to a therapist that did special things here in Boca Raton. And I went to her, and I told her that I wanted my son to feel accepted for who he is, because so many people rejected him because he didn't like wild children. And he was very creative. He had all kinds of plans that were sometimes very dangerous, because he didn't have the stop, think, act ingrained yet. That was very hard in his brain. That's the ADHD brain. So this understanding helps. And I said, yeah, I teach him so much that he's okay the way he is, and that things can improve. As you said right away, oh, you shouldn't do that because he's not okay the way he is, because yada yada. And I thought, that is exactly, how can you expect somebody that to do positive things and being kind and loving if you tell him you're not okay the way you are? What are you then? A bad boy. That's the next step. A bad
Mm.
person. You're
Mm.
not welcome. You're not loved. We don't want you to play with our kids. If people heard ADHD in Florida, whoa, they run the fastest way out. We don't want to deal with that.
Oh.
And this is only rejection that gets incorporated. I'm not a good person because nobody wants me. Now,
Yeah.
jail is full with people that have that paradigm and that believe about themselves, and that's why they do the terrible things they sometimes or often do. And
Yes.
it comes all from that. They think usually, or that's totally, they don't have a closed heart entirely. There's nothing there anymore. But it also has always that they didn't get what they needed to get, the nurturing they deserve, every child deserves. It's so sad if you think about it.
It is. It is. Yeah, when you think about like really the underlying problem behind something, like usually that's just the case. Like, I mean, it's sad. Like, those that have already gone to jail, they usually get worse because the cycle just gets propagated in there. But
Yeah,
if only the help could have been done before,
yeah,
while as kids, and I mean,
yeah,
yeah, it's really a cycle. Like even when I think about, I mean, try not to go too far because it's almost an hour. But even when I think about my country in itself, like I know somebody was said like because I usually tag my videos now like generational curse part 1, part 2. I mean just like a theme. But he was saying, "Oh, I think you're going too far by calling it a curse. It's like a pattern." And then, I mean, I told him I get what he's saying, and thanks for clarifying that. But sometimes I feel like it's a curse because of the impact. Like it's because I read what curse means is like a great misfortune. I feel it is for a generation to have these things in them.
could
It's
you call it a generational burden? That's the word I use.
burden. Okay,
Because
okay.
with a curse, people think about some
I
magical,
know, I know.
but the
Yeah,
burden,
yes,
because the generational patterns that burden us,
right,
because
right.
we have been raised in a certain way, and we do
Yes,
the same.
and it
That's
keeps
you
going
usually raise
on,
your kids in
on
the way
and
you're
on.
raised.
Yeah, and even like the effect in the society is even where I'm looking at. Like even prison, and when I look at the country and like the leaders, like I see these leaders leading us the way we lead our kids, and it's not a mistake. That's how they've learned to lead, from how they've seen their parent lead them. Like they're not doing this by mistake, or it's not happening per chance. It's like if we can change to become empathetic leaders, we would see empathetic leaders. But like that's just a cycle, and that's why I was just like, for me, I just feel like it's a real, but I mean it's a burden, but for me it felt like a curse, like that we need to break
I
in my
totally
head.
get it.
Yeah,
You
it
know,
felt
and
like something that
this is
needed to
my
be
problem
broken.
too. The
Yeah.
way you say things, and you come, when I started to speak about the soul and the transgenerational work I do, of course, the soul has there a place. And that is where you can see the, yeah, so that's part of it. And there were enough people that couldn't stand that they walked already away. And that is a typical psychology way of thinking, because psychology literally means knowledge of the soul, but the soul is left out of the equation, because you cannot measure, you cannot do research with the soul. You cannot. So you only do research with the behavior and with all the labels, right? And I think a biggest part is missing, because our internal beings, whether you call it soul or being or psyche or whatever you want to call it, you don't deny it. There is more up to us than only flesh and blood and a brain and do things. Then we would be all robots. No, we have much more that is unseen, but it's part of us. It's a database that we have with us. And I think it's very well said how you say that. And the more you observe and step back, and you more see those things. On a personal note, Nigeria, I heard some terrible things that's going on lately. Correct?
It's crazy. Things are getting worse. Like, I mean, I'm hoping there's a new leader that we're really hoping would win the elections next year. I mean, I'm trying to have so much faith, but ever since I was a baby, I've been hearing Nigeria will get better, and it has only gotten worse. So I'm really struggling to hold on to faith. But I personally think the change would come if children are parented with like respect, love, having that internal kindness, empathy, and compassion. Because I feel like empathy is something we really lack. We have sympathy, we know how to say sorry, but empathy, like the ability to feel what somebody else is feeling, and be considerate from there, be kind from there, being able to say, okay, I know you're feeling that, and that's okay. It's something we don't really get. I mean, that's why our president, if you see what happened, the people were protesting that they were being killed by the police people, right? And that they needed to take away that division of police officers. And it was not like a protest of a fight. They just went and sat at the toll gate, and they were singing the national anthem. Now, I would think even if you want to take away a protest, maybe you spray water, send people away, or you put gas. No, our president sent the army with live bullets, and people were killed. The people were killed. And then they took some bodies away, and like if they were going to hospitals, they were going to search hospitals for any. These are people that are being killed by the president of the country. You can only you need to lack empathy to do that. You need to
the need for power for him is bigger, and the
yeah.
fear of
Yeah, he said
losing
it was
his power is
disrespectful.
bigger than anything else.
Yeah, he said it was disrespectful. He found it very disrespectful. And but that is the problem, when we don't know how to deal with our triggers with disrespect, and we decide we want to punish versus understand where this person is coming from and let them know how you would rather be treated. Communicate. When we don't know how to communicate, those are the leaders we get, leaders that don't know how to communicate except with violence. And this is where I just really feel like it has to come from the grassroots, like from us.
Yeah, but you're so right there. And it's such an irony in a way too, that somebody as a president says, I'm not respected, I feel disrespected, then disrespect much worse other people by let them killed, and also burdens the soldiers or the police with forcing them to kill people, which is on their personal account too. You do it in order because you have to, you're part of that system, so you're loyal to your country. You're burdened personally for committing a murder. And that's the interesting thing. Are you still there? Yeah. Oh, it's like a frozen thing.
It's working. It's here.
It's the interesting thing that people think about. Yeah, it's the interesting thing that people think about guns, and I think nobody likes guns, barely who would like guns. But if only the army has guns and the army misuse the guns, then the inhabitants, the civilians, are nowhere because they don't have any way. Every totalitarian regime, the first thing they do is confiscating all the arms. And you can say, okay, an arm, yeah, a rifle is ridiculous that a young person can get that and just do whatever they do, right? But then the second question is, how come that so many young men or young people are so angry that they don't care killing people? Yeah, I know if they would have a knife, then you would kill less. But you still, where is the drive that you want to kill somebody?
Valid.
Now, personally, I think you can do a background check, but it can be that you're not a criminal yet, but you can become one. So the background check is not sufficient, and that's not enough. And what about medications people use? If you have antidepressants that make your feelings numb because you feel less the lows, but you also feel less the highs, and you definitely feel less compassion and empathy. Have you ever heard them speaking about that?
No,
The
I've
only call
actually
is
not heard.
take away the guns. Yeah, do it, but the
Yeah.
problem's not solved with that.
You're
because then they
right.
go
The
with
underlying
knives.
problem is key. Like, why we have to ask, like, in as much as I feel like it's going to be like a bandage, if you're saying take away the guns, it's like a bandage because the fracture, the underlying problem is still there. It's like,
Yeah.
why are they doing that? Like, can we also take a look at why kids feel the need to express anger?
Why would you want to kill someone?
Yes. Why
if
do
you have
feel
that need,
yeah.
where are you? And I think that is the question that is a lot of people even don't want to hear that question because of course I speak about it more, but and it doesn't mean that I say give every 18 years old a rifle. I think that's ridiculous. That's not the point. The point is, where is the need that you want to kill others?
Yeah.
And
valid.
yeah, and so yeah, and I saw a few days ago a woman that survived, almost you can say survived, that came from the USSR, that survived a really terrible situation in communist Russia, and she had a very negative view on life. And then, you know, it's, yeah, there have been 100 million people murdered because some people have some ideas and they take. So it's totally disrespect all over. It's very interesting, but I think that that discussion needs to be held. What am I doing? What do we teach kids in school? And how come that there still is so much bullying? It is not necessary, but that means changes have to be made in how we approach kids and the whole system. So it's a long story.
I think I think it's actually possible to take away bullying from schools. It just depends, because I had a friend of mine when my husband and my husband's friend. So how do I say this now? Me and my husband were with a married couple, right? So my friend, the girl, and her husband. So the husband and my husband and I were all from a school where there was bullying. And for her, it was, she had no idea what that was. She went to a secondary school, but it was in a place where there was no hierarchy. Everyone had to mutually respect themselves. The younger ones had to give feedback to the older ones on where they probably did something wrong to them, how they can grow, how can do differently. They had something like that every month or something, where they criticize positively, constructive criticism to the older ones, and then they learn from it, and they all lived like there was no bullying, there was no seniority, because that was the major thing in my school, my husband's school, and her husband's school, where those in the senior classes had a right to bully those in the junior classes, like send them on messages. It was like a thing, like if you're older, you can send them a message, you can speak to them disrespectfully, just like a parent would to a child. Which was even one thing I was wanted to quickly address, with the fact that I remember a friend of mine asked me that what happens when you have, because I was trying to talk about how like it's important to foster love even like in the family with the children, and he's like, what if somebody has an older sibling, like when they were growing up, this older sibling was maybe still like 10 or 11, but that older sibling always acted like a dictator and was a tyrant. And I had to say, where did she learn it from? She had to learn it from somewhere. If she was raised with like respect and love, empathy and communication, she would be doing the same thing to her younger siblings. So You just have to track it back, and that's just it. That's just
Yeah,
the
and you hear
foundation.
right away the blame. That kid gets the blame. And that's the same response. A lot of people say that if you are nice to kids, then they will not listen, they will take over, you see how disrespectful they are. Yeah, duh, that's exactly what we talk about. If you are only polite and respectful out of fear for getting into troubles or punishment, that has nothing to do with respect or politeness. That is just learned behavior in order to avoid a problem. It's so stupid. Now I use the word stupid. It's really stupid.
I know, and it usually it only works like it is. How I say, it's not counterproductive, because the only thing is that when fear is taken away, this person doesn't know what it's like to respect someone just because they're human. They don't understand that concept of you just love and respect someone because of who they are, and that is because they never received that. They never knew what it was like to be loved and respected for who they were. So it's like a vicious cycle.
It's true. It's very interesting. Well, sweetheart, it's 5 minutes to 2.
Yes, it is.
We always go at length. I'd like to hear more about what you said somewhere in the middle about the 1,000, the parents, whatever. I will reach out to you privately.
Sounds good.
Thank you so very much.
All right,
care.
then. Bye.
I'm Carla van Welston, founder of Heart-Based Solutions, where I help you with psychology, neuroscience, and holistic modalities transform your life, career, and relationships. If you're new here, make sure you click the subscribe button and hit the bell to get notified for new videos. Any link that I mentioned in this video, you can find in the description box below.